Teenage Bounty Hunters. This is a review of the Netflix original series. It consists of 10 episodes of roughly 50 minutes or so each, and it tells a full narrative throughout the series. This basically follows two young girls, Sterling and Blair, as they end up becoming bounty hunters to a degree. There's a lot more to it than just that, and it's quite an interesting and actually very well done show. I quite enjoyed it. It's very funny, but it's also very adult in nature. That's right, it really leans into a lot of sexual themes and certain elements of nudity to a degree, but not really too much. Just again, it's very adult, and the material and the content that they kind of cover throughout the episodes is again very mature, and you should keep that in mind for the potential audience that is looking to watch it. It's not kind, nice little teenage bounty hunters. They're very intense. So with that, it's a very almost satirical sort of look at a particular culture in the United States, and with that, very fun and funny at the same time. It's got two great leads in it, and of course they are joined by a more experienced and really rather intense and fun character named Bowser. So Bowser is basically their trainer, I guess you could say, or their master in regards to the art of bounty hunting and their entry point into this particular life. Now, the first half really does focus on kind of, getting them into this role, playing around with the idea of bounty hunting. And then the latter half kind of trails off a little bit in regards to doing other things with the narrative. It's not to say they were weaker, but it just wasn't quite as good as the initial half. It seems like the latter half they were spending a lot of time setting up potential future storylines and places it could go. Less being a cohesive arc. I mean, it definitely did have a set story that was told throughout the episodes, but it very heavily leaned on potential for more seasons to follow afterwards. And I would have liked something, especially with cancellations today on Netflix, that was more, ready set just in case something does happen. I do hope this show does quite well, though, because it was very entertaining and it's got some very interesting, unique characters that all sort of work off one another very well. And I really did like the focus on bounty hunting because I thought it was very hilarious when they did it. And that's why I was a bit disappointed when the latter half becomes more about relationships and issues. I like that it gave more context and strength and dramatic moments to the characters. I thought that was very well done. I thought they had some good messaging throughout. And it's a different, softer side. I really like the dynamic between the two sisters. I thought that was very, very well done. I liked, especially they have these cool sort of chat moments where they're going back and forth with one another. I thought that was very well done and certainly funny almost every time that it popped up throughout the series. It's very cool and a better way of doing the sort of communication thing between, twin telepathy or whatever. I thought that was very well done, and I certainly did enjoy seeing that. And it does become somewhat weird towards the ending, but of course I don't want to spoil anything, so we won't touch on that aspect of the end of the series. Again, just kind of touching on key points throughout, so you get context into regards of what this show does provide. So it is very much aiming to be a comedy. It follows these girls as they are, kind of working their job bounty hunting. It's not really an intense job where you're doing it all the time, but they were getting cases throughout the episodes, especially again at the first half of the season. And with that, they also have a school life because they're still kids that are, going to this private, very religious focused school. And it is funny how they keep bringing up certain elements of religion and God and stuff and doing the right thing while they're, blasting stuff away. They're, shooting at criminals, trying to get them in. They're trying to be on doing the right thing with this, which they kind of are because they're doing justice and all that. And it's sort of funny. And then you also get these dynamics where they're playing off of the youth of today in comparison to the older Bowser, because he doesn't quite get as many of the things that the kids are talking about these days, and he kind of is really good at doing a sort of mix comedic wise in regards to the understanding of some of those concepts, and they play around with that a lot, and it's actually quite entertaining to see. And again, it's a very funny show. They go really quite in depth with some of the crude humor elements, but that made it really funny. And it's quite compelling. I think the first few episodes actually really get you hooked on this, which is not necessarily the case for a lot of comedies. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for them to get off the ground. But in this case, they actually really did nail that concept. I was actually very pleasantly surprised by what this did deliver and how entertaining this was. It was just a really fun, unique show that did something a little bit different. And I was a little bit hesitant in watching this one initially, just from the name of it. I was kind of like, I'm not sure how that would go. But by the end, I was pleasantly surprised, and I really would like to see this continued. They left, as I mentioned, a lot of lingering storylines, and I'd be curious to see where they would take those. At the same time, I'm not sure if those would really push you more towards the bounty hunting, and I would like to see them get back towards that aspect of the show because I felt it was particularly strong. It's really fun when you get the dynamic of these two girls trying to figure out how to get a particular, mission completed, get their job done, using their influence within the community because it's a very rich and very powerful sort of group of individuals that are kind of connected there. And I like that element when they were playing around with the ideas surrounding, being in part of this group and almost catching some individuals within it and also outside of it. So the setup and how they had to figure things out and how they kind of fell into this role of doing the bounty hunting was actually very entertaining and very fun. It was well structured and quite unique. And they really needed to push that more. They actually kind of lean heavily later on towards, again, the relationship dynamics that they build towards and what they've built up throughout the series. I did like how those were handled, and I think a particular audience will really enjoy that, kind of that younger but slightly older audience, because again, this is a very mature sort of story, a very mature narrative in regards to the characters and the handling and the attitudes that are presented throughout the series. I'm just trying to really get that point nailed home in case you are wondering the appropriate level for whoever might be watching this. It is adult, or really, I guess, later teens even might find this really interesting and get a good kick out of it. And it goes all out in some regards and is constrained in others because it does have like certain religious, almost mocking moments, and I think they play around with that really fun. There's definitely going to be some good surprises and well set moments that will maybe come out of almost nowhere but have some sort of build up, and those are really fun to see. I think they handle the various relationships that build up quite well. Again, I love the main cast here. The two sisters are fantastic. You've got Blair, who is supposed to be more of like the darker one of the two siblings. And then you got Sterling, which is more of the super, I guess you could say, preppy or very well set in regards to how things are going on with her life. And then they play around with that element a lot throughout the season and kind of right off the bat, which is a little bit entertaining to see how that kind of connects and builds throughout the episodes. Overall, it was quite enjoyable. I had a really good time watching it. It was a lot of fun. It was very entertaining. I would give it a 8 out of 10. You can read my full review in the description below. If you do have any questions about the series, let me know, as I'd love to talk about it because it was highly entertaining, and I think those first few episodes really do get you hooked into the action.